Welcome back, everyone. Before we dive in, be sure to drop your thoughts, feelings, and lessons in the comments below. Like the video and subscribe so you never miss stories like this. Let's get into it. The cruel thing my wife did was move into a hotel with her lover while I took our 8-year-old son, Jordan, to his Saturday barber appointment, then come back home the next morning smiling like the world hadn't tilted, telling me I was killing the vibe and ordering me to pack a bag and leave until I figure out what I want. Here's how it happened. I live in Charlotte, North Carolina. That morning started regular: waffles, cartoons, Jordan arguing about the lineup he wanted. I drove him down Beatty's Ford Road to our usual spot, a tiny shop with Panthers posters and a jar of blue alcohol that smelled like clean. He talked about a school project and whether LeBron is better than Jordan. I took pictures of him in the chair, sent one to my wife, Nia, with a caption, "My guy." No response. The silence felt weird, but married people have weird silences. I paid in cash, tipped, and we headed home with a fresh cut and a pack of Sour Patch Kids. The driveway was empty, even though Nia's white SUV had been there when we left. Inside, I saw that the overnight bag she rarely used wasn't in the closet. The sliding door lock was still warm, like someone had just touched it. I checked the counter where she leaves her keys. A hotel key card sleeve sat there like a confession. Jordan ran to his room. I texted, "Everything okay?" She replied an hour later, "At a hotel. Need space. Don't be dramatic." I stared at the message until it burned, then opened our online banking and saw a charge. Uptown Suites off Tryon, $237.86. I asked her if she went there alone. She replied, "Stop. New boundaries. I'll be back in the morning." I swallowed the anger because Jordan was in the next room, counting his candy, asking if we could go to the park. I set water to boil for pasta and told him we'd watch a movie later. The house felt staged, like every untouched cushion was lying to me. I walked the rooms and noticed a couple of things missing: her small makeup case, the silk scarf she wore to bed, the perfume bottle I'd given her on our anniversary. Little things packed with big meaning. Nia came back the next morning with a latte and a grocery bag like nothing happened. She kissed Jordan on the cheek and squeezed his shoulder like she had only stepped out for air. I tried to keep my voice even when I asked about the hotel. She blinked, took a sip, and said, "I said I needed space." I asked if someone else was there. She shrugged. "You overthink everything. This is why I need a break." The word break felt like a trapdoor opening beneath me. She set the latte on the counter, the lid leaving a ring on the granite we picked out together. That same night, while Jordan slept, she told me I was killing the vibe, and she couldn't breathe around me, and maybe it was best if I went to my brother's place for a few days until she figured out what she wanted. I told her this was my house too, and I had done nothing except take our son for a haircut. She tilted her head, considering me the way she looks at a jam drawer, and said she didn't want to fight. "Don't make this ugly," she said softly, but it already was, and we both knew it. I packed a backpack anyway. My brother Aaron lives in University City. He met me at his door with a tight hug, letting me stand there longer than men are supposed to. I lay on his couch staring at the ceiling fan that night, listening to the fan tick while I scrolled through banking transactions. 2 charges at the hotel. A DoorDash order delivered to the lobby. An Uber to a restaurant on South Tryon. Return trip to the hotel. I took screenshots and emailed them to myself. Not because I wanted revenge, but because something in me understood I might need proof to be believed. The next morning, I went back to grab some work boots. Nia had changed the alarm code. I stood on our porch with my backpack and dialed her number. She let me in after a minute like she was doing me a favor. "Don't come by unannounced," she said. "Jordan has school." She looked polished, hair in a wrap, lip gloss on, the light catching the tiny gold hoop in her ear. "I'm going to need some space to figure out what I want." The word space became a knife, cutting through every memory I tried to hold. Our son's teacher emailed that week. Jordan missed a homework assignment. I was juggling HVAC service calls, a compressor replacement up in Huntersville, and a package unit inspection in Noda, sweating under roofs, answering dispatch, trying to hold the edges of my life together. I would FaceTime Jordan from work, coax him through math, praise the lines he wrote for his journal. Nia would text to say he'd be fine and not to make it a big thing. My stomach kept a slow burn. I stopped sleeping right through. I slept in chunks, waking up to the buzzing of my phone with nothing on the screen. Her mother called me weak. That was the word she chose. She said I should fight for my wife by giving her space, that men who complain online don't hold marriages together. I told her I hadn't posted a single thing. She said she meant the energy. Women need beauty and ease, she said, as if hotel sheets were therapy. Later that night, a picture of Nia appeared on her cousin's Instagram, filtered, glowy, holding a cocktail at an uptown bar. I recognized the dress. I had ironed it last spring for our anniversary. It wasn't the kind of detail you brag about to your friends. I confronted Nia about the hotel charges again. She said, "You're obsessed with receipts." I said, "Receipts are all I have left." She sighed like I was dragging us through mud. Then she said she had plans coming up and needed the house quiet. "You can't just leave me homeless," I said. "I didn't say homeless," she replied, voice sugar sweet. I said away. There are words that bend reality. Away. Turn my home into something I no longer recognized. She handed me a list. Days I should do school pickup and days I should not come by at all. The days I should not come by were circled. The lover finally got a name, by accident. Jordan called me from his iPad and said, "Mommy's friend Leon bought cupcakes." The name stuck in my chest. Leon. Nia said I was interrogating a child. I said I was listening to my son. She said, "You're making this ugly." I had told her from the start, I was not the man who checks phones. I was not out to shame her. But I became the man who collected statements, who took pictures of the hotel keycard sleeve and the DoorDash bag in our trash with the room number scrawled on it. I became a documentarian of my own slow collapse. The collapse sharpened when Nia told me I needed to leave for at least a month. I said, "That sounds like you want me gone." She nodded. "Yes, I want you gone, at least for a while." Her eyes were steady. She wasn't crying. She wasn't pleading. She wasn't torn. If there was a story she was telling herself, I wasn't in it except as the obstacle. I packed up my boots, my uniform shirts, my toolbox, and a photo of Jordan at Carowinds with cotton candy in his teeth. I tried to take only what I needed because in my bones I hoped this was temporary. At errands, I made coffee in a dented pot and scrolled lawyer sites. My foreman, Patrice, noticed I'd missed 2 morning safety huddles and asked what was going on. She didn't pry, but she looked me in the eye and said, "Get your documentation. Don't argue. Paper is neutral." That night, I called a quiet attorney in Uptown named Cecil Robards, recommended by a co-worker who had made it through a rough divorce without burning his life down. Cecil didn't ask if I still loved my wife. He asked about accounts, transactions, messages, schedules, the last time Jordan had seen a pediatrician. Cecil told me to stop arguing in the house. He said, "Start documenting dissipation of marital assets. Start documenting the forced removal. Save the school emails, the schedules, the specific language she used." I sent him screenshots of the hotel charges, the texts telling me to leave until I figure out what I want, the calendar entries where she struck through my days. He asked for my last 6 pay stubs and the mortgage statements. He said, "Breathe. We will file. We will not posture. You will not threaten. You will prepare." His voice was flat, not unkind, but edged with a rhythm that meant he'd walked dozens of clients through this same tunnel. That week, Nia told me we should tell Jordan we were trying a nesting arrangement. Except it wasn't nesting. It was her in the house and me floating between work vans and couches. "He doesn't need to see you angry," she said. I told her I was tired, not angry. She paused, tilted her head like a counselor, and said, "Your energy is heavy, Marcus." The condescension stung. I told Cecil about the nesting. He said, "It's not nesting if one parent bans the other. Keep your tone neutral. Keep your copies safe." I made a small file in the cloud and a larger one in a box under Aaron's spare bed. Jordan started packing a small backpack when he was with me. He kept his toothbrush in his sunglasses case. He asked if my brother's couch was my new bed. I said, "It's where I'm staying for a little bit." His lip wobbled in a way he didn't want me to see. We ate burgers in the truck by the Little Sugar Creek Greenway and watched people jog past us, breath puffing white in the cold. He fell asleep leaning against my side, Sour Patch Kids welded to his palm. I took another picture, and I did not send this one to Nia. The first temporary hearing date was set for 5 weeks out. 5 weeks can feel like an abyss. I worked. I drove. I tried to keep the oil changed and the invoices clean and my head clear. On a Tuesday, the school counselor called to say Jordan had been quiet in class and had drawn a picture of a house with 2 doors and none of them open. I thank her for letting me know. I forwarded the email to Cecil. He replied with a single line, "Save. Print. Backup." Then he called and told me how to arrange a parenting schedule on paper, how to ask for what was reasonable without sounding like I wanted to take a child away from his mother. The weekend before the hearing, Nia posted a photo of a charcuterie board by a hotel window. I recognized the skyline angle. It meant the room was high enough to see the Bank of America Tower, a little off-center. Leon's watch band reflected in the glass. I didn't comment. I closed the app and went back to studying for an HVAC certification that would push my pay bracket into a level lower lawyers call not rich, but steady. I memorized voltage drop formulas while a piece of me felt like wet paper. I didn't text Nia. I texted my son to ask what new Lego set he wanted to build at my brother's coffee table. The hearing morning, I wore a clean navy suit I'd last worn to a funeral. Cecil met me outside the courthouse with a stack of prints and a bottle of water. "We're not here to humiliate her," he said. "We're here to tell the truth. The judge will see the truth if it's organized." I nodded. The courtroom hum felt like a small airport. Footsteps, coughs, papers whispering. Nia arrived in a cream blouse, hair in a sleek bun, minimal makeup. She wore the necklace I had given her on a weekend in Asheville. She did not look remorseful. She looked focused. The judge asked questions. He read the text where she told me to leave until she figured out what she wanted. He read the school emails about missed homework and the counselor note about the drawing. He looked over the hotel statements and the Uber receipts and the DoorDash bag with the room number on it, which Cecil had gently, clinically labeled in our exhibit list, third-party delivery to lodging. He asked Nia to explain the forced separation. She said we needed space. He asked her if she understood dissipation of marital assets. She said it sounded like something I would say. The judge granted me primary custody, child support, and exclusive use of the house, effective immediately. He cited Jordan's stability, the forced removal, the documentation trail. He spoke in careful, measured syllables, and I heard the words through a tunnel. I didn't gloat. I didn't smile. I nodded once. Nia's mouth tightened, a tiny furrow appearing between her eyebrows. In the hallway, she handed me the house keys without looking me in the eye. She adjusted her bag and said, "You made this so ugly." I said nothing. It felt like my voice had shattered into 100 tiny pieces and was now just powder in my mouth. I drove from the courthouse to the house and stood in the living room like I was entering a museum of a life I used to own. I changed the alarm code to a date only I would remember. I took a breath and put on a pot of coffee. I cleaned the counters, wiped the lip gloss ring, and put away the hotel keycard sleeve I had saved as evidence. I did not throw it out. I put it in the file box under the bed, proof of a season I never wanted to relive, but could not pretend didn't happen. I made a grocery list, wrote grapes for Jordan, underlined it twice. Jordan came home that afternoon with his backpack zipped tight, gripping a laminated hall pass like it was a passport. He walked through the door and looked around like a soldier returning from a bad deployment. Then he ran into his room and pressed his face into his pillow. I sat on the carpet beside his bed and didn't say anything. When he was ready, he rolled over and asked if the house was ours again. I said yes. "It's ours." He nodded solemnly, like an old man. Later, he asked if Mommy would be mad at me. I said, "She's allowed to feel what she feels. We're going to be okay." I slept in my own bed that night, without dreaming about hallways and locked doors. In the morning, I made pancakes in the shape of footballs and burned one because I forgot to flip it. Jordan laughed like it was the funniest thing he'd seen. We built the Lego set on the kitchen table and found a missing piece under the fridge. I wrote him a note and tucked it in his lunch. Life didn't write itself. It steadied, like a boat after a storm, still rocking but pointed toward shore. I kept working. I kept studying for the certification exam. I set my alarm for 5 and breathed into the quiet. There was no speech. There was no victory lap. I didn't post the order or the keys on social media. I paid the mortgage on time, and I put an extra 20 toward the principal because Cecil said it was good for me to feel something tangibly improving. I started running again along the greenway before sunrise, letting my breath catch, letting the cold bite my cheeks until I felt present in my own body. I made a cleaning schedule because the house had grown feral in the corners, dust behind the TV, crumbs in the couch, a hair tie that wasn't mine under the bed. Nia texted about logistics, exchange times, school events, a dentist appointment she had forgotten to schedule. She did not apologize. She did not acknowledge what had been decided or why. Her messages were brisk, businesslike. Dropping at 5. Don't forget, hoodie. Leon will pick up Friday. I read each message twice, once to understand, once to make sure there was no hidden trap. Then I answered with the same neutrality Cecil coached into me. Received. Will do. Please confirm school pickup time. If there was a tone to see, I would not be the one assigning it. A week later, Nia called late at night and said I'd made her look like a monster. I was sitting at the kitchen table with bills in a neat line, Jordan asleep with his door cracked the exact way he liked, 2 inches, an amber slice of hallway light. I said, I didn't make you look like anything. She said, I didn't mean for it to go this far. I thought about the hotel windows reflecting our skyline, about Leon's watch band, about the word space used like a weapon. I said, I know. She waited for more, for an opening. I didn't give one. I told her to email me the dentist's number. The HVAC certification exam fell on a Saturday. Aaron drove me even though I said I could handle it, sat in the parking lot with a coffee and a biscuit, and didn't say much when I came out grinning, passing score in my hand. We drove to Lowe's, bought a better filter for the house unit, and a toolbox with foam cutouts, so every socket and driver had a place. It felt like a small thing, organizing the tools that earn my living, but it also felt like armor, a way to say to the world that I would maintain this house and this life with competence and attention. I took Jordan to a Hornets game. We sat high, where the air smells like popcorn and old jerseys. He learned to boo and cheer in the right places, and I learned how to answer questions about divorce in the quiet space between plays. Are you and Mommy mad forever? He asked. I said, we're learning how to be kind without being together. He nodded like that made sense. When the Hornets hit a 3, he jumped to his feet and spilled his soda, then froze, awaiting wrath that didn't come. I showed him how to mop it up with napkins, how to say sorry to the usher, and how to keep watching the game anyway. The karma wasn't loud. It arrived in paperwork and the quiet shuffling of responsibilities. Leon didn't last. I know because Nia dropped Jordan off one Friday and sat in her car longer than usual, staring at the steering wheel. She texted me later, change of plan for Sunday. That was all. I didn't ask follow-ups. I didn't crow. I packed Jordan's weekend bag with extra socks and a book he loved, and I made a pot of chili for the freezer. If Leon was gone, it wasn't a victory. It was a vacuum that would eventually fill with something else, and that wasn't my business anymore. My transformation was not a montage. It was a ledger. I paid the mortgage. I balanced the utilities. I taught Jordan to fold his shirts the way my father taught me. I switched our internet plan because the old one kept dropping on his homework sessions. I put blackouts in his room so he could sleep without streetlight slicing the walls. I bought 3 identical lunchboxes and rotated them like a line cook. I labeled the bin Science Project, stocked it with glue sticks, pipe cleaners, a stack of printer paper, and a roll of painter's tape. I was preparing for small emergencies, the kind you can fix with forethought. One evening, Jordan asked if we could plant something. We went to Pike Nursery and chose a small Meyer lemon tree because its tag promised fragrance and patience. We carried it home in the truck bed like it was fragile, set it near the sunniest window, and read the care card twice. Every weekend, he checked for new leaves. Every failure, yellowing, a tiny leaf drop, he took personally. I told him sometimes living things adjust slowly to new light. He said, like us. I said, exactly like us. We watered it together, both of us careful not to drown it with love. My foreman recommended me for a supervisor track. It wasn't monumental. It was steady. It came with a modest raise and a little authority to train new techs. Teaching felt good. Telling someone else how to safely discharge a capacitor, how to listen for the faint rattle of failing fan blade, made me remember what it meant to learn slowly and then suddenly understand. That night, I sat at the kitchen table with the certification printout, the supervisor memo, and the mortgage statement. I drew a small star next to the principal balance like I was grading my own effort. I didn't post any of it. The day the exclusive use order had started, I'd changed the alarm code to the date my father taught me to tie a tie. Months later, Nia texted to ask if she could get a few things she'd left in the garage. I set them on the porch in 2 boxes. The silk scarf, the perfume bottle now nearly empty, a stack of holiday decorations I didn't want. She arrived with sunglasses on even though the sky was gray. She took the boxes without meeting my eyes. She did not apologize. She did not ask about Jordan. She texted later, "Thanks." I replied, "You're welcome." If there's a definition of justice that fits our story, it isn't cinematic. It's about the house being clean and quiet, the alarm code working, the mortgage balance tilting back towards sanity, the lunchbox packed, the science bin organized, the lemon tree learning the light. It's about a judge reading facts and seeing a child who needed stability and a father who refused to weaponize hatred. It's about an ex who never said sorry and a man who stopped asking for the word like it was a key to a door he'd already unlocked with paperwork and patience. Months passed. On Jordan's 9th birthday, I made a banner out of paper triangles and string, exactly the way my mother used to. We ate store-bought cake and 2 pizzas and let the boys throw foam darts until the house sounded like a small war and then like sudden peace when they all collapsed in front of a movie. After the last kid left, Jordan hugged me with sticky fingers and said, "This was the best." I stood in the kitchen under the dull glow of the pendant light and felt something clear and simple. I had rebuilt a life with the parts that mattered. Sometimes late at night, I remember the hotel window and the way city lights smear into gold lines when you look through glass. Sometimes I remember the small sharp pain of the word space said like a compliment. Then I remember the hallway outside the courtroom, the weight of keys passing into my palm, the way silence can be a friend when you refuse to turn it into a sermon. I remember that I don't have to narrate my pain to make it real. I just have to live differently than I did before, without begging for someone else to validate my boundary. I keep the file box under the bed. It is heavier than it looks. Inside are bank statements, emails, the hotel folio printouts, the school counselor's note, and the custody order. I open it sometimes, not to relive anything, but to remind myself what facts can do when feelings are weaponized against you. I show Jordan none of it. What I show him is a list on the fridge labeled "This week." Under it, practice spelling words, take library book Wednesday, lemon tree checks Saturday morning. He reads it aloud like a pledge. I check items off in pencil, never pen. Things change. Pencil respects that. The last time Nia and I spoke beyond logistics, she asked if I hated her. I was pulling a pan of cornbread from the oven, the smell sweet and warm. I said, "No," she said, "You should." I said, "That's not a life." She was quiet, then went back to practicalities. I ended the call, sliced the cornbread, and called Jordan to the table. We ate with butter and honey and a bowl of greens. I told him his granddad used to make cornbread like this after Sunday service. He asked if Granddad ever burned it. I said all the time, and we laughed in the small, soft way that means a house is breathing again. In the end, karma looked like this: a court order signed in black ink, a set of keys passed without ceremony, a job that recognized my steadiness, a child sleeping without checking the door twice, a lemon tree pushing out a pale, determined bloom. There were no applause breaks. There were no triumphal soundtracks. The people who hurt us did not apologize or learn a televised lesson. They looked at a locked door and blamed its hinges, not the hands that shut it. I didn't argue with them. I refilled the soap dispensers and scrubbed the sink and set the alarm with the code, only I know. When I look back now, I don't see a man banished from his own home. I see a man who stepped away from a fire and learned how to build with water, paper, and patience. The betrayal happened. The abandonment was real. The injustice was documented, dated, and filed. The transformation wasn't the armor I thought I'd need. It was a rhythm: wake, work, parent, study, rest. Repeat. My heart changed shape to fit a quieter life, one where love didn't mean bargaining with my dignity. The comeback wasn't loud enough to echo. It was precise enough to last. If you enjoyed this story, please like, comment, and share this video with your friends. Subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss a powerful story drop.